Good question, Rexhen. So there's a little bit of art. There are assumptive questions that you can use pretty much, depending upon what you're coaching for. I would imagine for all coaches have got a box of questions that they can ask that lead to it. But I think a lot of it really comes down to your intuition and really listening carefully to the answer. And when you hear the answer, and I don't know which podcast is related, so I will only say this. I will not use profanity on your podcast, but I will.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Doland White, also known as the Empowerment Guy, a leadership coach, author, and former CEO with over 4 decades of experience helping businesses turn leadership potential into performance. He's the founder of Doland White Consulting, host of the Next Interview podcast, and author of Lead with Confidence, where he shares his signature 4 pillars for building trust-driven, accountable, and growth-focused teams. From C-suite strategy to hands-on coaching, Doland helps leaders lead boldly with clarity, confidence, and systems that actually work. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Doland.
Thank you, Rexhen, and thank you for that fantastic introduction. I'm humbled. It's good to be here with you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for coming. What I want to know is, when it comes to, it's been so many years, what inspired you initially to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
Well, great question. Great starting question. So as you can tell by the color of my hair, I'm an old guy with many, many years out in my career. And, it's across the body of my career, I was blessed. I used to confuse managing people with leading people. And the across my opportunity in a couple of different industries. It's funny, had a great conversation with one of my clients today, and we were talking about the fact that the plans that we make to go this way aren't as straight as we think they're going to be, that they kind of weave left and right, and no matter how hard we try. And, early in my career in managing people, and I was blessed, I had an opportunity to manage large teams, a couple of thousand people, and carry big numbers, and was CEO and president early on in my early 30s of a boutique consulting company, technology company, and ultimately sold that. And one of the things that I kept learning was the difference between managing and leading. And it really made me inquisitive about, so what is the gap between managing a person and actually leading a team? How do you develop teams that are extremely effective? And so in my career, I had a chance to go develop courses and programs and teach engineers, lead engineers, which is hard to do, software engineers. Go lead software engineers on becoming very effective inside of teams, and to start to build that engine that creates teams that are founded on ease and elegance. About on April 1st of 2024, I officially retired. Up until that point in time, I had been CEO, had been involved in different acquisitions and a lot of different activities in my career. And my intention in life really is to take the lessons that I've used to build teams inside of companies to help them scale and double their income and triple their income and take them to the outcomes that they were looking for. To actually go out and found a consulting organization and consulting team with me, by the way, and coach executives on what it really means to be a leader. My personal mission is to empower 1 million leaders. Hence, in the introduction, you mentioned the Empowerment Guy. It's a moniker I just stapled on myself with LinkedIn, and they let me keep it. So that's kind of that's who I describe myself. But that's my focus. And I really believe now more than ever, we're in this unique period of time where we actually have about 6 generations all in the workforce. And it's that generation that's growing into, becoming the lead of economics, the lead in leadership that really I'm focused on. And how do I help that generation? I don't forget old people like me. I help them sharpen their saw. But how do I help develop that generation so that we really are creating leaders that are able to take organizations forward to create the outcomes that they create, because it changes lives. It changes their life, their family's life. It creates outcomes that are far bigger than scaling a company. So that's what prompted me to go start Doland White Consulting and spin it off. My wife periodically comes in and reminds me I'm supposed to be retired. I don't have time to be retired anymore. So this is what I do. So good, Regin. That's a long answer to your question, but that's why I do it. So
Well, I love that. And like you mentioned, there's 6 generations now, also for the first time, right, in the working force.
yeah,
Hasn't been the case before. So I feel like, yeah, it's a big challenge for leaders when it comes to how you approach each generation, because there's different styles, I guess, of communicating with each generation. For example, I had a coach about a
Hmm.
week ago, and he was explaining to me how, for example, the generation of baby boomers, like you can just call them on the phone. When you talk about the generation of millennials, you can email them. When you talk about the generation of like Gen Zers, there's a different kind of treatment.
Yeah.
Millennials don't want to like put themselves and work like more than 40 hours or 60 hours. They want to have more balance in their lives. Well, Generation Zers are like, they are able to put in the work, but it's just what they want to be appreciated while they do that. They want to feel like they are appreciated. Yeah, it's a, for every generation there's like something different. So I feel like it just makes it a little bit complicated for leadership team.
It can. When I talk to my clients about it, one of the things that we talk to them about is go where they are. So at any day, I'm on WhatsApp. I might be on a Zoom. I may be on, really, and it's really where that is. And and I think that's important. I mean, we tend to forget. I think a lot of leaders tend to forget that the general rule about it's not about making people come to us. It's about going to people where they are, which is part of recognition. Yeah, I love it. And I have 5 sons, and they're all down to across multiple ages. Youngest is 32 now, so I get to live generations through them and see what's going on. Although they don't
Yeah.
listen to me either, and they all owe me money, but that's okay.
So, how would you like when through the coaching journey with a client?
Mhm.
Which part of that coaching journey do you find the most rewarding since you started doing this?
Yeah, great question, Regin. So for me, every coaching journey with a client is intimate. And there are coaches that probably will listen to the podcast, and there's a very rote kind of methodology that they apply to their clients. And I learned the lesson that no one single methodology solves all of the problems. It takes multiple approaches. So a wide
Hmm.
depth of experience comes in handy.
Yeah.
So you can recognize that's really going on. But I think part of it is there's kind of 2 or 3 stages. Like the very first stage, I always kind of refer to as the dance. And that's where, you're really trying to determine when you get contracted as a coach, and not all coaches are for everybody. Not all clients are for all coaches. And no matter what happens kind of during the early interview stage, there may be an affinity and you agree to work together. But once you begin working together, there's this dance that occurs where you begin to develop trust.
Hmm.
And trust is that there's laws around trust. Trust takes 5 to 7 interactions to develop and about 3 to 6 months to complete. Then it takes one interaction to shatter it. So kind of in the beginning, you're learning trust, and you're also doing that kind of developing that intimate conversation, because a good coaching relationship talks about everything. And that's because it's not about money. Money's an outcome that sits out over here. It's all of the other things that lead to that outcome. That's completely contrary to a lot of clients' perspective. You're not there for the money. You're there to help them get things solved. So there's that piece where you're in trust with the client, and you're also building that ability to communicate clearly so you're both understood. And one of the things that I really like is and you can tell both people, it's kind of like in any relationship, you can tell when trust is hit, when you're at a place where that can begins to take effect. And that's one of my favorite spots. The other is then once you kind of cross through that door, there's 2 things that a good coach will do with their experience. And one is help them accelerate things that they already know. So they may have a problem with operations, or a problem with team or trust or communication or accountability, all of the things that go into it. But the other side is then to expose them to things they hadn't thought of before.
Hmm.
And it's kind of that duality. So it's that trust. It's kind of that dance at the beginning. and then helping them, and you want to help them with things they know very quickly. If you've hired a coach, anybody hires a coach, and the coach doesn't help them within the first 2 calls, go get another coach.
Mm.
You got the wrong coach. Go find somebody who's going to help you immediately come away with some kind of an outcome. But once you kind of get to the point where you've helped them with things they already know, then it becomes that longer place where there's things that they recognize, and then how they prioritize them. Do they fit in the strategy? Do they fit in their long-term outcomes? Does it align with their core values? And you begin to help them through that process. And that's where the relationship gets wide and deep. And then I think when you cross into that domain as a coach, then you've really built something that's solid. And that's when the relationship goes beyond 6 months or a year to a long time, because you're really spending them time helping them see things they can't see.
Absolutely. And how would you say, like, how do you go about helping them see things that they don't see? Is it by asking the right question at the right moment? Because sometimes I feel like the answers are easy if you had the question to begin with. The question is that unknown someone else
Right.
has to bring in sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good question, Regen. So there's a little bit of art. There are assumptive questions that you can use pretty much, depending upon what you're coaching for. I would imagine for all coaches have got a box of questions that they can ask that lead to it. But I think a lot of it really comes down to your intuition and really listening carefully to the answer. And when you hear the answer, and I don't know which podcast is related, so I will only say this. I will not use profanity on your podcast, but I will say bullshit. So it's important that you call the client on their bullshit, because a lot of clients we're to fail publicly. And so there's this fear that goes on. So if I tell you this and I know it's not going well, are you going to think of me as a failure? And there's that paradigm, that thinking that has to change with your client. And then it gives you the ability to ask deeper questions that really start getting down into the core of what's going on. Because most of the time, if something's really going sideways in your business, at the end of the day, that leader has to reflect inward, because it starts and ends with us. And that's
Absolutely.
so getting that person to that point, that's the line of questioning. And that's why, Rich, and I think it's important to know, multiple kinds of, coaching and solution solving. And you've got to know what arrows you're going to pull out. You don't have to be an expert in all of them, because as a great coach, we thinking of coaching as like concierge experience. When you go into a really nice restaurant or a really nice hotel and there's a concierge there, they help you do things. They don't do all of those things for you. It's on the coach to create that concierge-like experience. And it may be bringing someone in who's really good at that particular thing, but you for that, you help them solve that. And I think that creates that experience with the client, because people don't buy stuff for stuff. They buy stuff for experiences. And it creates that experience where trust deepens, that the line of questions gets better. And then you can focus on what you're really there for, which is to help them think beyond today, think more into the future. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And thanks so much for digging into this. This is very helpful. And I feel like a lot of coaches that are listening also might find this very helpful as well. So for the audience that we have that is not coaches, that is just the audience that happens to listen to us because of the coaches that we get on the podcast. For any leaders out there, executives, just so we specify a little bit, who is the ideal client profile that you typically find yourself working with? How would you define that?
Oh boy, question, Regen. Again, so my clients, the people that I work with, are varied. They're from founders, anybody that's trying to get from $3 million to $10 million in revenue a year. And then there's an art and nuance to that. And then I also work with some clients that are, $50 to $100 million in size. It really is. So from a revenue perspective, it's nuance of where they are in the revenue and what their goal is as they move forward. What I really look for, and where spot is in working with executives, is to help the skills that they need to develop as leaders to create that team, that not just direct reports, but throughout the organization. There's 4 layers, right? There's high, low, left, and right. So they can create an organization that really is empowered. And empowerment really means you're giving people the permission to go try, that they can go make mistakes. They can do without worrying about punitive things. That's hard for a lot of leaders, because they've created that company, and they're going to put that piece of coal in their hand and they're going to make a diamond out of it. So it's hard to let go and trust your team to do that. And I spend a lot of my career is focused on the process, on how do you go from being that person to developing a fully empowered, trusted organization. Because then at that point, you can get velocity, scale. You can then grow your business, by factors of 10 at that point.
Mhm.
So that's really the sweet spot that I look for in clients, is really not the size, but the need. And that's where I probe, is what is it that you're trying to do, and what has prevented you from doing, why haven't you solved it yet?
Yeah.
What's your cost if you don't solve it?
Cool. And so, how would you describe working with these, or them working with you? Is there a certain program of a certain length?
A good question.
How would you describe the engagement here?
Yeah. So the engagement, I don't do year-long contracts with people. I just don't believe in it, because we don't, at the moment we come together to work, we don't know. So generally, initially, I'll do a 90-day engagement. And part of that is just so that we can I talked about the math behind trust, kind of the doing the dance and the things that have to come through that process. And that engagement allows to kind of create a structure. In some organizations, I'm working only with the founder or executive. In other organizations, I'm working with the founder and executive and their leadership team. So we're doing kind of parallel work. And generally, the founder is slightly ahead of where I am with the leadership team. And that's so generally, it's a larger organization. That way it can be, I guess, permeated is probably the word I'm thinking of. It can be, taken to the organization. So I look at the kind of as the initial from any client is, let's work together for 90 days. And I'm a very straightforward coach. Look, if at any time you feel I'm not the right coach for you, then tell me. I'm okay. I'll be fine. And I'll help you find somebody who is. I think that's all incumbent to help each other. So that's where I start. Generally, those relationships expand out over time. There's one gentleman I've been working with for about 8 years, another company a couple of years. It really just depends upon the needs of the organization. The one thing that I try to speak of is not to create a dependency. So I'm not on your payroll, never will be on your payroll. Matter of fact, I'm completely unemployable at this point in my life. My job is to help you, is to teach you how to fish. And if I can do that at some point, candidly, I've done a good job when I teach you how not to need me. And I think that's the role of a great coach.
It's so interesting, because the coach kind of like works their way out of the relationship towards a successful coaching. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And it's fun. Inevitably, you create the relationships are intimate, right? So you ultimately, and they never ever fully go away. And matter of fact, I'm re-engaging with it now after 3 years. So it's kind of like we're at this stage and now this makes sense. It's like, okay, let's, go do this. So it's really more about not what can I do for you today? If you're coaching and that's your attitude, Rexhen, and you're thinking about, or any coach listening to the podcast, if you're thinking in today, then you're coaching your client wrong. Because at the end, it is, how do I make them self-sustainable? How do I make them get them to the best possible outcome they can get to, where they don't need me? And then when they do need me, I can coach them at a different level. Rather than coaching here, I can coach at a higher level and bring more value.
So for all the coaches that are listening now, when it comes to marketing channels, which one do you find working best for you right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's an interesting time. I think, most coaches are going to say, oh, LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn. And you'll find me on LinkedIn, and I'm out there, the empowerment guy on LinkedIn. And I think one of the challenges, and having been a CEO of a marketing firm for a few years, I watch marketing very carefully. But, one of the challenges with single marketing approaches is there's a lot of noise on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people out there who think they can help you. There's a lot of, there's a lot of talent out there who really isn't quite ready for prime time, making a lot of noise. And so I think LinkedIn is good. And my focus on LinkedIn, as an example, is I just really do content. I was a very soft offer on LinkedIn. They look, if you'd like to talk, call me, and you want to listen to my podcast, this is where it's at. So I focus on that. Where I focus on opportunities is in relationships. And that's and it can be a little precarious, because not all of these are appropriate for everybody. But any coach that is looking for leads, look, if you're doing it by yourself and you're not participating in an industry specific mastermind, whether it's a leadership mastermind or working with there's other people out there, then you're missing an opportunity to develop relationships. Coaching is based on trust, and people will ask you to come coach when they see something about you that they trust, right? The three components of marketing: know, like, trust. So I would recommend, the most important thing I would coaches, and that I'm finding that helps me a lot is just be authentic with your content. A lot of times, my content is I'll pick my cell phone up and I'll do a quick 60-second video, and it's just me talking. Don't get too hung up on it. And those moments of authenticity are really the moments that I find that people reach out. And I've been experimenting lately, on different platforms like Rumble, which is a little bit of a different audience. YouTube is still, the number one search engine on the planet because of the entertainment value. So people end up on YouTube. So I would recommend for coaches that are in that, focus on those. Don't do omni-channel stuff. Don't put all your eggs in on LinkedIn and expect the phone to ring. It's not gonna, but focus on it. And for me, LinkedIn is all about content. To answer your question directly, content's LinkedIn. YouTube Shorts are great. They help me with stuff. I'm finding great results with Substack, and there's things coming out of Substack that I'm really pleased with. And then it's really all about relationships that I've, built over years and years, which are people saying, hey, you've got a challenge, call Dolan, call that guy and talk to him.
So yeah, referral network as well.
Absolutely.
How, when it comes to Substack, because that's a channel that often gets mentioned in the podcast.
Oh,
but
good.
It's a channel that I'm not in. And so how do you describe the strategy behind it? Is it just content or?
Yeah, it's a little richer content from my experience. It's a bit of a different nature. It's not, so one of the challenges, I think we'll use LinkedIn as a poster child. LinkedIn originally started out as a business. When Jeff started LinkedIn, the CEO of LinkedIn started it before the Meta acquisition. It was really a platform for business people to connect. And then it's evolved into kind of business people connecting, social stuff, ads. So it's kind of been diluted. There's a lot of noise on LinkedIn. And it's still a valuable platform. Love the platform's great. What about Substack is it's a little more pure, and people are really looking for the content. So I've seen growth in readership or reactions to my podcast or short clips or notes. Greater growth on Substack because people are there, they're exploring for content and exploring for value. LinkedIn tends to be, if it shows up in your, kind of like Instagram, there's an algorithm that runs and it shows up in your feed, right? And based on a lot of different factors, and not hashtags, by the way, for you coaches that are thinking hashtags solve all your problems. They don't.
Yeah.
But if you haven't looked at Substack, I'd suggest it. Go take a look at Substack, and I think you'll find it as interesting. I'm always looking at one thing, Rexhen, is I'm always looking at where are the people? Where are people?
Yeah.
Because if my mission is to empower 1 million people, I can't make them come to me. And the only way to get there is through multiple platforms. And if you're putting good content out, that's a value that helps people do something. Like, don't just write to write. Put out content that tells people, here's an action step you can take today, apply this. Then you'll build that know, like, trust, and people will come to you, and from that following, you'll develop engagement. Engagement develops clients.
Absolutely.
Not to give a lesson in marketing. There you go.
Well, I do like some lessons too. I feel like everybody in the ads would prefer to have some. It's like for free. So.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you so much. And so, in terms of looking into the future, do you have any specific goals that you're working towards just in the next 1 to 3 years?
I do, both a mix of personal and professional, always personal and professional. There's about work-life balance, and there is only life. There's no work life. It's only life. So professionally, I'm to have an opportunity. I'm partnered with a brilliant gentleman named Blaine Bartlett. We're launching a mastermind. It's his 4th year. I've been co-teaching with 4 years. We're now in a partnership. So we're looking at moving this mastermind. It's about mindset and not about the vision strategy. It's about the mindset of business. And so we're moving that to a global platform on that mission to empower a million leaders. So that's a professional goal. Along with, I'm now writing another book, 2 books, as a matter of fact, which reminds me, my wife keeps reminding me I'm supposed to be retired. So I'm writing 2 books, coaching clients, running a podcast. So from my professional perspective, it is while I have this time here and I'm 72 and I'm drawing breath, my focus to take what I learned, the goods and bads of stuff that I've screwed up in my career and done well, because I've screwed a couple things up, and go help people be better leaders. On the personal side, I have a bunch of grandkids. and 40 years of marriage. And so I have a great time hanging with those people and getting to be a different person.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
Thank you.
That's my life. Those are my goals.
I like to say there's no work life, there's life. That is a very interesting way to put it. I mentioned in the beginning, but might have done a disservice because I said millennials only, but it's not that I'm trying to. It's just like information that I got from a coach.
Yeah, no, it's
Uh,
perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And I think this, people ask about, no, so tell me about your work-life balance. Do you feel like you're working too much and living too much? And I think people forget about, regardless of your generation, that there are
mhm.
moments when you work more and work less.
Yeah.
And so the balance that occurs, and all of it impacts our life. Like when we work a lot, it impacts our relationships with our significant others, with our family, with
Mhm.
our kids, and the other way around. So, yeah, just one old man's opinion.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And so, in terms of investments, what would you
Sure.
say have been some good investments in your coaching business? Maybe investments in yourself, investments in the coaching business, like coaching programs, masterminds, communities, or anything else that comes to mind? And if any, what have been some maybe not so good investments that you'd like to have avoided?
Couple of those. Couple. Let's start with the good ones. So the first is as a leader, one of the things I learned early on is to continuously invest in yourself. And you invest in yourself in three ways. The first is stay in the study, which means, so I read a book a month. Generally, on average, I'm reading a book a month, and I study 2 books a year. So 1 book a month. Reading the book means I'm just going through it and seeing all the stuff. Studying means I read it every day, or I read a section of a book every day for 6 months to a year, until it's ingrained. And there's great books out there, things like Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. But that's a book I study. I don't just read Think and Grow Rich. I study that book. So I stay in the study. One of the investments is stay in the study. And that is, which requires rigor and focus that, you do allocate time to go do that. I do believe in masterminds and in gatherings in the room. People, I always caution, because some of them can be not what you're looking for. I won't use the word I was thinking of, but some of them aren't exactly what you anticipated them to be.
Mhm.
So when you're thinking about that, you do want to be in there, and you want to be in there not for the singular purpose of contacts and getting something. It's about if I participate, what is it that I can give into the group, that I can contribute, that brings value. By bringing value, others are going to want to engage you. You don't have to ask, because they'll ask you. It's a funny law how that works. The other thing too that's been investment for me is go hang out with people who don't do what I do.
Yeah.
Just
That
go
is an interesting. Yeah.
go hang out with people who don't, and watch and listen to them about how they do things, and see. And it could be anybody in any organization. I mean, it's fun. You learn things, how they do it, and it gives you those moments of kind of wonder, childlike discovery on, hey, maybe I could try that in what I do, or I could try that.
Yeah.
I would suggest that that go do that. Go hang out with people who don't do what you do. And
I
then
feel like,
go ahead.
and I want to interrupt you just for a second. I
All
feel
right.
like that's where, because we're so invested in a certain field,
Yeah.
when you go and talk with someone who is in a completely different field, you feel like that's what he's doing. What can I do with my knowledge that would like advance that what he's and go to the next level, and then you feel like, oh, I have some unfair advantage if I were to do that, or like if you just stay in your field, then you're just limited by the information of that field. So yeah, for
Yeah.
example, for me, marketing, I feel like just marketing, what should I do? Well,
Right.
there's people that have a service,
Yeah.
they have the skill, they're just missing marketing. I wish I could hang out with those people more. So yeah, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. And it's good on you too, Rexhen, for thinking that way, because it's funny that we take away through those conversations. And the other thing too is, in those conversations, there's no intent. You're not there to sell them something or do something for them, or there's no intent other than just to have a conversation and learn,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. It kind of makes it nice, and it makes it easy.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the bad thing, on things I've invested in before in my career that weren't as good, is probably the biggest lesson I would tell people is, when you hear people with an idea, and this is, Dolan making stupid mistakes in his career a couple of times. When you hear people with their ideas, and you're attending a mastermind and you're not necessarily in sync, you feel sometimes like you want to come away with value, because I've spent money, I need to come away with something I can go do. Therefore, I feel like I can feel good about the 10 grand I spent, or 20 grand, or 30 grand I spent to be in this mastermind. and or 100 grand in this particular case I spent.
Mhm.
You want to come back and apply that. Well, you can the assumption that, well, if it worked for them, it's going to work for me. Well, then it doesn't work
Mhm.
that way, because where they were at the time isn't where you are or where your organization is. And so I've literally blown up my team before, coming back and implementing stupid ideas, good ideas, stupidly at the wrong time, thinking that
Mhm.
it was, oh, he did it, I could do it. And coming back and doing that. And those investments. And so if you're, the flip side to making the investment in yourself is be of what you're investing in and what you're going to do with it. And I heard a great interview the other day, and it was CEO, and she was talking about there's really only two buckets in the business: good stuff and stupid stuff. So invest in the good stuff and try not to do the stupid stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that. Right now, what would you say is a challenge that you're trying to solve for next in your coaching business, thinking about the goal in mind as well? So short-term challenge.
The short-term challenge, I think, for me, just on a personal basis, Rexhen, is just it's that, talking about life balance. It is that
Mhm.
balance between the direction of moving forward with, creating a platform that, empowers leaders, and yet without sacrificing coaching. I'm finding, focusing on, growing that sustainable platform through masterminds and other writing books and other things comes sometimes at the sacrifice of being able to have the time to go coach, because they're
Mhm.
two very, one is really intimate. And
Mhm.
if I pick one challenge that I'm looking to kind of solve in my business, is to grow a little bit more on the one-on-one coaching side, because of
Mhm.
I can see the accelerated results on that side there with individuals and executives. So, and that's
You mean when you say grow, meaning just like serving more executives, leaders?
yeah, adding in more clients, I think, on that side, because my focus
Cool.
has not been there. So, and I
Cool.
think I struggle with that balance,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of part and part. We're talking, we hit go on the podcast. That's one of, I think,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
endemic for all coaches, I think, is that balance. And for me, it's that kind of that, if, running the side to run mastermind, run podcast, which is a mass kind of one to many, and it
Mm-hmm.
loses kind of the intimacy of one-to-one coaching. And I'd like to
Yeah.
grow more on the one-to-one side.
Totally makes sense to me. Thanks for sharing that. And my
Pleasure.
final question to you
Yeah.
is, what advice would you give to other coaches who are looking to scale their impact? In a way, you're also looking to scale your impact through your books. So what advice would you give to other coaches, if any?
I would, yeah, it's fun because everything is going to be in a different place, kind of in where they are. They're in,
Yeah,
so
so let me actually rephrase the question.
yeah.
Coaches who are around your place, around your level, since that would be like think about it, an advice you'd give to yourself.
Yeah, focus on the give. There's reciprocity, and it's built around, don't worry about so much about having things come to you, as much be more concerned with the give.
Mhm.
And I think when we really put ourselves in a position to where we become a servant to that, doesn't mean subservient, but when we serve that cause, when we serve that with the right intent, and we serve it authentically, been talking all day, it gives us
Mhm.
the opportunity then, other doors open. So I find all of the time, every time I feel like I want to pull or push with my business, I
Mhm.
take and leave it alone, and the business in turn answers its own question. Doors open, introductions occur, opportunities like this occur. So if you're a coach and you're really and like you've got to push or pull,
Mhm.
relax. Just take a breath and focus on what is it. Ask yourself one question: what is it that I am not giving?
Mhm.
And give that. If it's time, give time. If it's content, give content. But what is it that you're not giving? And allow that to impact the outcome, and do it authentically.
Thank you so much, Doland, and thank you for coming to the podcast. For anyone who wants to reach out to you or connect with you, they can go into LinkedIn, Doland White. They will be able
Yeah.
to find you there, the empowerment coach. They can also look into the website, dolandwhite.com, where they also will find you there, or the nextinterview.com, the podcast. Is there any other way people could connect with you or reach out to you?
No, that works. That works great. I'm hard. If you go to, like you mentioned, if you go to LinkedIn, I'm the only Doland, I think, on LinkedIn as the first name, which is a blessing in its own way. But it's just search for DOLAND, and I'm sure I'll pop up out there. And if I can serve you in any way, listeners or coaches or guests, drop me a message. I'm happy to respond. And what's mine is yours. So just give me a ping and I'll let you know.
Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.